David Flink has spent his adult life advocating for the needs of students with learning differences. Having gone through his own experiences, David can relate to a generation of students on a similar path.
So I own the identities of dyslexia and ADHD, and I think they're superpowers, but if you had asked, 9-year-old version of Dave Flink before I had that language, I would have just said, these experiences that seem to be in my head, the world doesn't want. The things being asked of me were an affront to the way that my brain worked. The creative, impulsive Dave Flink out of school that society loved and rewarded would step into school and be told, sit still, be quiet, work harder. But I just got in trouble a lot eventually and found myself outside the classroom more than I was allowed to stay inside the classroom.
Eventually, Flink received what most call a diagnosis, but he saw it as an awakening.
Diagnosis doesn't feel like a really good word. Most of the time when we use that word, there's bad news on the other side of it. Very medicalized. Now, on the other side of that, I realized less of getting a diagnosis and more so getting an identity. I was like, so I'm not stupid. I'm dyslexic. I can deal with that. ADHD, sure. And after I understood that I had dyslexia and ADHD and ultimately flipped it from diagnosis to identity, and now I say I am dyslexic and ADHD is part of my identity, the whole world opened up.
Despite setbacks in his education, Flink, with his incredible support system, forged his own success and received an opportunity that would shape his life forever.
I was completely shocked that I was admitted to college, much less an Ivy League school. And so I went off to college, accepted at Brown. Turned out I was a decent student, pretty good student, when I was given equity, when I was given an equal shot to do my learning the same as anybody else. What I didn't understand when I arrived at Brown was how much privilege I had been given. Privilege to get the label, privilege to get to go to some of the schools I did that honored what came with that label. There's no core curriculum at Brown. I was able to pick classes that fed in directly to my passions. I knew I preferred to write papers as opposed to taking multiple choice tests. So I was drawn to that, which reinforced my writing ability and my passion for that, and ultimately to become an author. Thinking Differently was a project that I undertook about a decade ago. And this was really the book that my parents wished they had. And so I was taking all the best advice that I was hearing from young people and from families over the years, success stories, and I just put it down to a book. So a lot of the book is the story of how I managed to get through school and life, but it is also the story of thousands of other families.
While at Brown, Flink and a group of his peers who all had similar learning disabilities began an organization committed to reaching students and teachers across the country to enhance the learning experiences and outcomes of students with learning and attention differences.
Eye to Eye was about only mentoring. So we would take college and now high school students who have neurodiverse identities, dyslexia, ADHD, that kind of thing, train them on how to work with kids, and then go into local schools and say, show me your dyslexics. And then we would mentor those kids so that they could feel a sense of pride, the things we often didn't have, a sense of community and an ability to ask for what they needed in their school environment. From one chapter in Providence, Rhode Island, we now work in 22 states across the country. Ultimately, sure, it helps kids' grades go up and we're excited about that, but more importantly, their self-esteem goes up, their ability to ask for what they need goes up, their sense of community, their metacognition, their ability to know how their brain works. Over the years, we realized we have to help those kids. We have to help the adults around them. So we also do teacher training in how to work with those kids who are inevitably in their class. 20% of the kids in their classroom are going to learn and think like we do. And then we also have what we call the LD Alliance. So it's a club model where allies and their neurodivergent peers, their LD peers, can come together to think about how to create better awareness, love, and appreciation for that difference.
Distilling his personal life journey and best practices from Eye to Eye, Flink has several insights into how parents and teachers can better help their kids prosper and help students find their own success.
Best thing you can do for your kid, especially if we're talking about kids who've been identified at a young age, and now we're talking about, say, middle school and high school, making sure that accommodations are in place, meaning they get an equitable shot in school, and helping the kids lead those conversations to be their advocates. That's going to serve them really well. You can't fight these fights for your kid, but you should fight beside them. But I also recognize as a parent that I have to listen to them and let them lead the way. And I just, my job is sometimes just to cheer them on. Know your brain is beautiful. You're not broken. Lean into accommodations, ask for what you need, and be the best expert on your brain. Become a metacognitive expert and know that you're a part of a huge community. We are one of the largest unseen groups in the country. And, how different would my life have felt if I had realized that 1 in 5 people in my classroom were struggling the exact same way that I was. So kids who are watching this, young people who are watching this, know you're not alone. But the way that you find your community is you have to sometimes be the first person to share your story.
For a world of difference, I'm Bassey Arikpo.